Hey guys, my name is Bound to Divide and I'm here today with Production Music Live to break down what I believe to be essential components of an Anjunadeep Style melodic house track. Now there is no rule for what sounds and what elements you need to fill out a track like this. However, I know that there's a lot of beginners out there who want to make this sound or this style, and they kind of just get stuck and their tracks feel empty and they're not sure what to add and how to add it. So this is more for the beginner who just wants to dive in and make some Anjunadeep Style melodic house. I'll play you the loop that we have and then afterwards we'll break it down, and it sounds like this. Okay, so first and foremost, I always make some sort of harmonic drone to write to. I just find it's easier if you have some harmonic context when you're writing your melody, rather than just writing a melody with no other sounds. It's kind of uninspiring to do it that way. So yeah, this is always the first thing I do. So it's just a basic like soul wave synth with the notes A, E, and A again. And that's just your perfect fifth, because the E is the fifth note in the scale, and that sounds like this. So it's just the default diva preset with some reverb on it, and some changes made to it. So if you just basically reopen diva, if I delete it and then go into diva, the sound sounds like this. So all I did was just add the second oscillator and pitch it up an octave, and then turn up the volume on the first one so that it comes in a bit too. And then I just played with this cutoff, basically this cutoff filter, just opened it up a bit and reduced the envelope amount. Then that's basically the sound done, and all I did was just add some Valhalla shimmer just to brighten up that reverb a bit. And these are the settings. The only thing I did was just add a low cut. And the thing I like about Valhalla Shimmer is that it has this shift feature over here, which basically shifts the pitch of the reverb up over time. So here it's set to 12 semitones, so it's going to go up an entire octave over the course of the reverb. And then I just cut out some of the low end using an EQ. And yeah, so now we have a nice little harmonic bed that we can use to write our melody on. Just to add was like a bit of rhythmic texture. And I found this loop, Pipe Dreams, inside of this Production Music Live, this Dark Textures and Soundscapes pack. And that's called Pipe Dreams. So I will add this to new channel. And if we open this up, we'll see, if you compare these two waveforms over here, you can see they are timed differently, and all I did was just quantize this loop. So this is what it sounds like, my version. So yeah, so that just adds some nice texture and like sort of fills out the sides of the mix a bit. And then what the original sounded like was this. So all I've done is I've gone in and hit Control A just to select this entire loop, and then if you hit Control I, it adds all these little points. These are called warp markers, and they are sitting on basically every single transient. So then what I did was I just divided this up into 16th grid, and then you can select everything again, Control A, and then you hit Control U, and that will quantize it. So now all the peaks are sitting on the grid. And then you'll notice that it kind of has a rhythm to it. I heard over here. It's kind of got this da 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 kind of rhythm. So I thought I would just loop that section. So what we can do to loop that is to just bring these 2 points down to here, and then the rest of the clip will be just this section looped. Okay, so now we need to get that sounding like this, and to do that all I did was add some corpus to get that nice tone out of it. Corpus is a great effect in Ableton Live. I think it's quite a unique effect that you don't really get anywhere else. It almost adds like a certain tone to the original sound. And you've got these different like models of tones. So like this beam sound sounds like this. And you got marimba. Each one's unique, and my favorite one for these kind of loops is pipe, so I used pipe. And then you can tune this to the key of the track. And so I just went up, I think to 466 17 hertz, which is A sharp 3. Now the track is in A, but I think because of the way the loop, the key that the actual original loop is in, I for some reason had to pitch it up to A sharp for it to sound right. You'll notice if I play them together, that sounds in key, but if I pitch it down to A, it sounds out. And then if we increase the radius, that'll let it just, that tone ring out a bit longer. I think I had it, yeah, it's 68%. Okay, then I just added this EQ8. And lastly, a delay. Basic on this measurement of 3. And the dry wet set down to 29%. And then this EQ curve is just cutting out the lows and the highs. And it's also set to ping pong mode. And we just turn it down a bit. Okay, and then, so that's basically just that sound over there, the texture. I'm just going to delete this version and then go back to this one. Then the next thing I added to this, now that we've got this nice harmonic bed to work with, I started making the hook. So the hook is just a melodic idea that kind of repeats itself over and over again and just has some slight changes. And when you're creating a hook, all you want is basically something that the listener can remember, like a melodic idea or an arpeggio or something. That sort of just draws the listener in and something for them to focus on. So just think of it as like the main melody of the track. And in this sort of Anjunadeep melodic house style, I've noticed a lot of the time this melodic idea will repeat throughout the entire track, just constantly evolving and changing, but the actual melody doesn't really change. It's usually just like the synth that gets automated and changes over time, and then everything else around it is also changing, so it feels like the melody is constantly fresh. So this is the melody that I came up with. So the basic idea is just this one repeated over and over again for the first 4 repetitions. It doesn't really change until the last bar. I've got these 2 notes that come up here. And then I've also got the velocity a bit higher on those ones. And in the synth, the velocity is mapped to the filter cutoff so that they are a bit brighter than these notes. So you can hear they're a bit louder and a bit brighter. And then for the next repetition of this, instead of just repeating the D every time, we're now going up to the E, then the G, then back to the E, and back down to the D. So slight variations, but the main melodic idea doesn't really change much. Then just looking at the processing and the actual synth, I used from the Production Music Live, I believe it's called Circle. Yeah, Circle, which is a Diva melodic techno preset pack for Diva. The preset's called DMT LD Dusty, and I really like the the noise and the grittiness of this synth. I think it sounds really nice and warm. I think I made some basic changes maybe to the ADSR of the sound. So that's the envelope, the shape of it. If I just solo it and sort of change the decay. Yeah, you'll hear that kind of changes the shape of it a bit, makes it a bit shorter and longer. Whenever you just go for a preset, I always advise you just try and see if you can adjust parameters like this that make the sound fit better in your track. Another thing I changed was it was set to a pulse wave, like that, and I think it had a longer glide on it. So I just brought down the glide to get rid of those like pitch bends. Well, not completely get rid of them, but make them a bit shorter so they're not as obvious. And then I just turned off this pulse wave and we only have the sawtooth. Okay, and then the second sound, the second main sound is this Arp. Okay, and that's also rising up in velocity so that it gets brighter towards the end, and then fades back down and goes bright again. And you want to focus on doing things like that because it helps keep the loop evolving and changing. And that's just playing your A, D, and E, which is the first, the fourth, and the fifth notes in the scale. They're all pretty powerful notes in the scale, so it fits pretty much any chord in the scale. And this one is just a bit quicker than the melody, and the idea with this is this Arp is just kind of, again, helping to fill out the background along with the harmonic drone and this texture. that's the same preset, PML DMT Dusty, but that's got the pulse wave, a bit of glide, and I think that's about all I changed for that one. So yeah, then all I did was, sorry, I completely forgot to go through the processing of this sound. All that I did was add a delay with these settings, so it's set to 3 with 37% dry wet. Cut out some of the low end, and then I've added a glue compressor to just control the volume of it, because it was getting very loud at points. So you can see the needle is kind of pushing it down some points, because some notes are quite a lot louder, like they peak louder than other notes, which can be kind of difficult to mix with, especially when you're mastering. You don't really want notes peaking out too high, because they'll hit your limiter and then basically squash the entire track down. So we just try and reduce those dynamics a bit, not completely, but just with some gentle compression. And how I set up the compressor was, it's just left on the original settings, and I've just brought down the threshold until I can see the needle moving a bit, and done a bit of makeup gain. Okay, back to this sound. So yeah, same preset. Again, same delay. We've just cut out quite a bit more of the low end, because that is being taken up by the hook. So if I turn off that, if I just disable this one and 3, then you'll see how much of the low end gets filled out by the sound. All that noise is like creating this rumble. And these harmonics, I felt like they were kind of interfering with the hook. So that low pass just made room for that. And then I even squashed it down a little bit more with this bell curve. And then again, we've got this compressor, just controlling the dynamics very slightly. Okay, next up we've got another ARP, and this is just more of a rhythmic ARP. You can hear it's not very tonal, and it kind of bounces all over the place, and I really like that. I felt like it fit really nicely with the texture. And with the all the other arpeggios, and yeah, it just fit really nicely. And that's just a single note holding the A3 note, and using this PML DMT ARP, what's it called? Mushrooms. And I really didn't change anything in this. This is just the preset as is. All I've done is just cut out some of the low end. You can hear there's a lot of sub. If I turn this on, you'll be able to see it. If I just disable the first EQ curve. Yeah, there's all those pops down there, so I just got rid of that. Okay, the final thing I added was the bass, and this is like the most important part of the track, I find. Okay, so this is how the bass sounds. And the bass is a really powerful element in these kind of tracks, because there are no chord changes anywhere else. The bass notes create implied chord changes, because each one of these notes will be harmonizing with the melody and the arpeggio. For example, the first one is A, and then second note is F. When you combine that with the hook, we have the A from here, and we've got the C and the D from there, so that's a chord in itself. And then we're going down to the F on the bass note. And that F is harmonizing with the melody again. The melody goes A, C, and D, so now we're going F, A, C, D, which is, well, F, A, C is an F major chord. So while we're not creating chords per se on a specific instrument, the combination of all the instruments are creating this kind of harmonic change. And the bass itself in this is detuned to a fifth, a perfect fifth, which in itself is a power chord. So again, that's helping with these implied chord changes. So yeah, the bass is something I like to do last, because once you've got this entire harmonic structure, you can just do this by ear. You can find the notes that feel the best in the bass line. So just all together, this entire loop sounds like this. So yeah, the bass definitely adds a whole lot of power and movement to the track, to the loop. All right, so in terms of the sound design for this, this is again Diva, and we're using the PML DMT preset pack. What's it called? Circle. And this is the preset PML DMT BS Moogie. So kind of sounds like a Moog preset, and that's probably because it's using the Moog filters and oscillators and envelopes and stuff. So if I just go and select that again, hopefully that resets it. Okay, so this is what it sounded like originally when I loaded it. It's quite dark. So the first thing I did was to just open up this cutoff so that we could hear it. And the feedback was a bit high, so I just turned that down. Okay, and now we've got two oscillators. What I did was pitch up the second oscillator to 2 octaves. And then just detune it down 5 semitones. Okay, and then we brought the cutoff down a little bit, and another thing I added was just a bit of distortion using rotary. So if we just play with the drive here, and add some really nice distortion, and then the balance kind of just controls the shape of the sound in terms of the EQ or the frequency spectrum. So if I just turn that down, gets a bit, cuts out the low end a bit over here. Turn it up, we get a bit more sub back. So I just left it round about there, just based on, you know, I wanted that sub to come through a bit more. And I think that's about it for this actual sound. Then after that I just added some more EQ, which just cut out a bit more of that high end, and then a bit of the 100 hertz like the mud over here. And that's how that sounds. Okay, so those are the first 5 sounds I would say that you need for melodic house. So we've got some sort of harmonic drone to write with, and then we've got the texture, that's the second one, the hook, third, very important, arp, the fourth, which is optional, but I just added it because it just created some more harmonics for the sound. So if it's feeling empty, add the arp. Second arp is also optional, so I just bundled these into, the fourth main element, and then the bass, the fifth, and that's also very important. So in terms of synths, we've only got really 5 elements, and the track is sounding nice and full. And if you look at it on like a span over here, you can see we've pretty much got sounds filling out the entire range over here. Okay, next up is the drums, and drums are often really overlooked by beginners. They don't pay much attention to it. Usually they'll just put in a kick, a clap, and a hat and call it a day. But it's very important to focus on these and try and get sounds that work well with your track. So the first thing I added was the kick, because it's the most important drum in the track. You really have to get this right. And I just went through this entire pack, this DPV. What's it called? Yeah, so in Deep Premium Volume 1, the first kick, I just really like it because it's got a nice powerful punch in the sub and not too much top end on it. And the top end also has like this little stereo click to it, which sounds really nice. So I just found that the kick fit really nicely with the bass and the rest of the track. Sounds like this. All I did was just boost the top end a tiny bit because it was pretty inaudible. Okay, then the next thing I added was in the percussion group, this top loop, PML top 123, and that's from the PML Tops and Loops Pack Volume 1. So this is the 14th one over here. Sounds like this. So I just felt like it fit really nicely with this kick. And it sounded great with the rest of the track too. I did add a bit of sidechain compression just so that the kick can punch through the loop, because sometimes the loop kind of hits at the same time as the kick, and then we don't really hear the bite of the kick at all. So I just sidechained that to the kick. And then the next thing I added was the clap. Very important to get a nice sounding clap with your track. Don't just drop any old clap in there. Here you can see I laid a few together to get a sound that I like. So that's how the clap sounds, and these are the layers. So the first layer is this really dark clap. Then the second clap that I added was this one. And I probably should have just cut out some of that low end. I'll do that now. Okay, third clap I added was this one. So this is the third one. It's just a hand clap, and that just fills out the sides. At the moment the drums are sounding like this. So a nice groovy loop. Alright, the next main element I added was the hat. And this is made up of 2 layers again. also from D Premium Volume 4. We've got this closed hat 002, and that sounds like this originally. All I did was just take out some of the low end. And then I laid it with this one because I felt like this hat was just lacking a bit of the very high end above 10K over here. So together it sounds like that. Fills it out nicely. Okay, and then I added a closed hat. And that's from D Premium Volume 1. And that's just playing 16th notes. But what I'm doing here is I'm just adjusting the velocity of each note so that it's kind of fading up over time. Gives you kind of like a pumping feeling. And I panned that one left, then I found another one and just took out some of that low end and then panned it right. Did the same thing with the velocity, so they're both going up and down. Yeah, so all together the drums sound like this. And if you look at the span, the whole frequency spectrum, we can see, it's been filled out by all the drums. So the drums are nice and full and the synths are nice and full, and together we have a nice full loop that we can use to start creating a full track from. Okay, thanks for watching. My name is Bound to Divide. You can always check out my YouTube channel for more tutorials. Hope this was helpful and you learned something, and have a nice day.